This is where Hazard dies. This is where, like, my personal problem, but I think a lot of lower rank and mid rank Hazards will make the same mistake, where this is where you die. Okay, so let's talk about Hazard really quick here. So a lot of guides will do like the whole ability breakdown thing, and we are going to break down the basics of the abilities super fast. But to me, it's less important for you to understand exactly what the abilities do, because you can get that literally anywhere. You can sit in the practice range, but how it actually functions within the gameplay loop of like, how do you actually play tank in Overwatch? And I'm going to really not baby this down, but step all the way down to the fundamentals. First things first, as tank, your first priority is to put pressure on the enemy team, to threaten kills on their tank, their DPS, and their supports. You do that by shooting, you do that by protecting yourself, and you do that by diving with Hazard. There's a lot of different things that you could do to apply pressure, and what that does is that creates space. Creating space is saying, I get close to you here, I force a threat on you here, which means that this location is no longer dangerous for my team because I'm dealing with threats here. But also, people in other spots, maybe even in really dangerous spots, are looking at me and not at my team. So you protect your team by being a threat. That's basically the complete basic of being a tank in Overwatch, is not necessarily protecting your team by standing in front of them, but by being a threat to the enemy team efficiently that forces people to look at you. And so the question is, how do you do that with Hazard? With Hazard, I have something that I like to call the passive tank theory. It's not as passive as you think, that I picked up from coaching Doomfist a lot. And so I like to not always, like, I think characters can kind of stand on their own, but the idea is kind of that there are aspects, I think it's easier to learn through analogy. So the thing with Doomfist is really, really, really good at diving and killing targets, right? But he is vulnerable to straight up damage, and he's vulnerable to CC. So a lot of what Doomfist is taking high grounds and taking positions, shooting with your gun and waiting for opportunities, or creating opportunities by using a cooldown, going in, going out, going in, right? But you're always doing so from a really powerful position, not necessarily going all in every single dive, okay? Hazard is very similar, where Hazard has the capability of repositioning himself frequently and then being a threat from that position to force those cooldowns. Essentially, you're finding different positions on the map that allow you to get close to enemies, pull their attention, and then see what you go from there. Sometimes you might actually commit to a kill, sometimes you might get out and go again. And so all of Hazard's cooldowns are, how can I take people's attention without dying? Let's start with the number one thing, which is going to be his passive wall climb. I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but you could use it essentially to reposition in a lot of spaces that other tanks can't go, especially when you use it with conjunction with your jump. You can wall climb, you can jump, and then you reset your wall climb. So for example, I can't quite make this jump, but I jump, and not only does that actually make it to the top, but check this out. Let me actually do it here so I can show you guys. You could wall climb, jump, and then you can wall climb again. And that's something that other wall climb characters cannot do. So you actually use the jump to reset your wall climb and get crazy with it. You can even use your wall climb. You could throw your wall and climb off of your own wall, which gives you different angles and different positions. But essentially the wall climb is what allows you to take different positions around the map. And also, versus a lot of melee characters, it allows you to live off of dives. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll go for a dive, like let's say I'm playing versus a Reinhardt. I dive backline. Reinhardt turns on to pin me. Nope, just kidding. I jumped and juked over the Reinhardt. Happens all the time. So wall climb can set up, disengage, take different positions, and use it in conjunction with your shift. Shift is the big one. I mean, really, shift is the everything when it comes to Hazard. Without his shift, the character just doesn't exist, which is your ability to lunge around the map in multiple different directions. Now, you can go straight up, you can go laterally. Unlike Winston's jump, there's no real reason to look high with it. You could pretty much just look straight forward, and that will send you at the full distance. But you can use it to take high ground, you can use it to dive people, and when you dive, you are put into a slash option animation where you can use your shift or your melee button. I don't know what for console that would be. And just do a damage slash onto a target. It does pretty good damage. I don't know exact number of chat. Maybe it's like 90, something like that. And you can also combo this with your weapons. So you can use all of your abilities while you're jumping. You can use your block, as in your wall, I should probably say, not your block. You can use 80 damage. Gotcha. You can use your block. You can use your gun, so you can actually shoot while midair. And the only thing you can't do is melee, because melee will do the normal slash thing. So you'll lose your slash if you melee there, and it will cut your jump forward. But you could use all your abilities. And this is really important, because one of the downsides of using this to go in instead of just to reposition, and this is where we're going to transition to our next ability, is that during a dive, you might get shot, or you might get slept, or anti-naded, or booped, or hooked, or anything, right? So the concept of Hazard, the limitation of Hazard, like Doomfist, is how do I set up this dive without getting shot or CC'd? Yeah, one quick more tech. I think somebody talks about the bunny hop, which I use all the time. You want to hit the space right at the end of your jump. And right as I hit the ground, it gets you a little bit of extra distance, similar to what Reinhardt and Winston does. Now, initially, I thought that this tech wasn't very good because I thought it kept my jump on cooldown, but actually, the second that you press jump, it starts to recharge the next cooldown, so there's no reason not really to do it. And that's really important because it allows you to save your slash. Like, say, I can't quite reach, bunny hop, bam. You see that? So I actually was able to get that slash because I bunny hop. Anyway, going back to my wall. The wall is what allows you to actually go for dives without dying yourself. So that's super, super, super important because if I go in without wall, without my E, I am vulnerable to a lot of poke damage. I can't really use my weapon. I can't really block a sleep dart, right? You're going to get slept right through it. I'm going to get whip shot or booped right through it. So how do I dive a target with CC? And this is where you could do things like this, right? You can use your weapon and yeah, you might lose your slash, but at least you got the block off. And see, then now that I have the block, the wall up, I can actually use that wall to dance and juke and hide and climb up and over and shoot over their head. I can climb up and over and shoot. And yeah, if I get slept here, it's still problematic, but at least it's better. I have a little bit more cover, a little bit more safety. And so what wall is what enables you, more so than really any other part of your kit, to go in deep off of those slashes, to go in deep off of those dives. So everything about wall is like not just about doing wall like May wall, split tank and shoot tank. I see a lot of people using it that way. Sometimes it's okay. But if you ever want to go in, you really need wall to be able to do so. The other thing that wall can do in that aspect as well is it's what allows you to actually secure kills off of your dives. So maybe I go in for here. I could, assuming this isn't a 200 HP target, I could actually use that wall to cut off their escape. Does, what is it, chat? 40 damage, 50 damage? You would think I know these things. But it does that extra bit of damage while also cutting off from the direction that they normally want to run away. So if I'm engaging from here, they're probably going to want to back up. So I'm going to wall behind them. And heck, if you get the verticality, if you get high enough, you can actually wall, shoot, and slash. So you could get literally, you can have your cake and eat it too. Like I think if you get high enough with your jump, you can literally use like every ability in the game. You can shoot, you can do everything. Okay, so wall can be used for resource split, like you can cut off people from escaping, you can cut off the tank, you can use yourself to go in for a dive. And there's one more really important use of wall. Now, if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, that's both a bad and a good thing. The bad side is that, you know, it's there's a lot to this character. There's a lot of exceptions and a lot of rules. The good news is that you don't have to understand all these things to understand the character. But from my perspective, the reason why it's good, more so than anything else, is that there's so many nuances. There's so many dynamics. There's so many, well, you use it like this, except, use it like this, except, and so there's a lot of choices. And we'll talk about how to make those choices later on. But one of the things that wall does, and this one is really, really important, very underrated, is it's what allows you to control a different angle or lane that you're being shot from. So like, let's say I am shooting these guys here, and there is a sniper that takes this sight line here and starts to shoot me from here. I'm not planning on going for a dive. So I don't need the wall to secure that dive. There's no tank pushing they need to split off. All this does is say, you're shooting me from here. No, you're not. And it allows you to multitask so that you're able to control damage from one angle while you're shooting another. It's shield. And unlike other shields, like a Reinhardt shield, it allows you to do two things at the same time, right? You can actually put out damage and keep doing things. Like you cut off a lane and keep doing things. And that's something that makes his wall really unique. So when you come to the question of how do I use Hazard's jump? How do I use Hazard's wall? It really stems down to one thing. Okay, you want to answer to both of those questions? Do you plan on, do you need to, do you want to move? And if the answer is no, well then you don't really need the dash to go in deep. You don't really need the wall to enable a dive. You can kind of just use it for a resource split or to shut down somebody shooting from a different lane. But if the answer is yes, well then you're going to need that jump. Or you're going to need that wall to go in. Or you're going to... And so that can really help your decision making. Final cooldown with Hazard, and it's generally one of the easier ones, but it is one of the ones that is very important to manage, is your block. Now, this has been recently nerfed. There will probably be some continual changes to this, but as of now, it does a decent amount of DPS, think like Moira Suck level of damage, and it blocks what is it, 60, 65%? This number will change, so I'd recommend checking the Wikipedia. In damage in a 180 cone. So it's not, you see the cone? That's just the cone for your damage. The cone for the blocking is 180 degrees. So even though I'm not doing damage to this bot, if he were to shoot me, I would be taking a reduced amount of damage, 65%, okay. Now, a lot of you guys are like, oh, it's easy. You can block on frontline trades. Yeah, situationally. You could do it to just block damage. Yeah, situationally. You could block it when you're low. And the answer to that one is no. No, you need to avoid blocking when you're low because you've already lost your armor. One of the things, my personal probably biggest error when I was learning Hazard on the way to Masters was waiting too long to use block. If you mess up your positioning and you're a little bit out of position, or you go, oh, I shouldn't have peeked that, just use your block. It is a way to preserve your HP to keep it close to full. Because there's no problem using a little bit of block because it's going to regenerate right back again almost immediately. So you want to use your block anytime that you're taking unnecessary damage. And this is where things get really spicy. You guys ready for this one? I will have dives where I actually just block and I don't even shoot. You want to know why? There will be at least a handful of situations every game that you play Hazard where you go, there's a tiny, tiny chance that off of this dive here, off of this kill on the squishy, that I could get the kill here if I do one more or two more or three more shots. But I could also lose my entire health pool instantly. So there are situations frequently where you're going to look at this and go, man, I could get this kill, but I could also take a lot of damage and I don't know if I'm going to. So instead, I'm just going to block. Because remember, what's the point of tanking? Is to take people's attention, to apply kill threat, to apply pressure, and then live without taking too much damage, without taking too many resources. And so one of the measures of a mature and talented Hazard player is the ability to take action, not be passive, but be able to not take too much damage. And that's where block is useful. It's not just frontline presence, all that kind of stuff. It's about going in and going, oh, I'm gonna block, see? Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And so what happens is you keep more of your HP. And this is an offensive choice because if you keep more of your HP off of your first dive, now you're able to go in faster with your second dive. Because the Hazard that tries to go for the kill, YOLO, just go in all the way in. If you don't get that kill, even if you don't die, you're going to be 1 HP, you're going to need to heal, you're going to need to recharge, you're going to wait, and you're going to have your jump, you're going to have your wall, and you're still not going to be able to go. You're still going to be waiting to get healed back up again. So a lot of what it is preserving your HP off of dives so you can go back in again, and you go back in again, and you go back in again, and go back in again. Over and over and over and over again. Right, jump on cooldown is really low. It ends up being effectively only around, it is only 5 seconds, but like once you get the bunny hop and the action of jumping, it's often only like 4 seconds. So you could really have high uptime with this character, lots of damage, lots of pressure, lots of dives, if you do a really good job of managing your HP, and that's where block is useful. Now, it does do damage, so there are situations where you may want to burn all of your block to secure a kill, right? Maybe it's a target that's difficult to track. Maybe it's a target, maybe it's AoE. Maybe there's multiple targets, in which case using your block hits all of them, right? Maybe it's a target that has an ability that is blocking your weapons or anything, right? It also reloads your weapon. Maybe you don't want to reload, so that's another little tip there. You look at the reload in the bottom right, so there's a lot of ways you can manage it with your weapon. But the reality is that the most important thing with block is to manage the amount of damage that you're taking so that you can keep going. Is Hazard not good at holding an angle? He's excellent at holding an angle. Excellent at holding an angle. That whole passive tank theory of taking whatever position and being patient, we're going to talk more about that in the replay code in a second. Last thing is the ultimate, and this one is, I think a lot of people get this one a little bit wrong because it is very powerful. It is a root. It's awesome. Does some damage. It's only blockable if they use a mitigation ability in the air. Even in a small enclosed room like this, it hits them and it roots them. Good stuff, right? You can cleanse it. You can block it with shield. You can walk out of its range as well. So like it does have a pretty gnarly cast time. So if you hear that, you can absolutely avoid it. Hello. You can absolutely avoid it. So one of the things with the ult is just use it whenever you see an opportunity to root anybody at any time. I think people overthink this ultimate a little bit. You can use it once you've taken engagement on their tank. Use it on the tank. As long as they don't have a fortify like an Orisa or a Ryan Shield to look up in the air, they could walk out of it. You could force a lot of cooldowns. Totally fine. Get an opportunity to go for backline, got an opportunity to catch a squishy with it, go for it. Get an angle or a lane where you can hit a couple of people, go for it. Don't overthink it. There's a lot of ways that you could use the ultimate. There's almost no wrong way to use the ultimate. The only thing I would say is that if there's anything like a Life Weaver grip or a Kiriko Suzu or like a Ryan Shield that looks up straight in the air, it's generally not a good cooldown trade. So you kind of want to just play normally until you see an opportunity mid-fight. But if they don't have those cooldowns, so just cancel it, it's totally fine to just use it really whenever on whatever. So I guess that's one other point about the wall is that, yes, it can be Matrix, it can be shielded, it can be deflected by Genji. It does everything. Also, you could do it, I guess we should point this out, you can wall climb on it, you can reset your wall climb on it, you can basically permanently hold verticality. These little niche things I don't generally go in as depth in my guides, but I will say one thing is you can apply it different locations like that. There's a couple of settings. I know there's a Crondop setting. I just don't care. Everyone's going to be, I know there's somebody in my YouTube comments going to be like, well, there's this tech that you forgot about. I just don't care. How do you play the character? What's gonna actually make you play better and rank up? Last thing I'll say with ultimate is really the thing that I think everyone gets wrong with this ultimate, which is when you root somebody, don't just immediately think that you could do whatever you want. I mean, they still have their weapons and their abilities. Oftentimes, the rooting and the damage from the rooting and the follow-up from your team is good enough to force the CDs or to get the kills. So I think when you root somebody, you still have to play by the same rules of you probably would like your wall, you need to use your block if you need to, don't dive 5 people by yourself just because you rooted them. It's not like Genji Blade, like it has a huge pop-off potential, but you can't just pretend that they're all dead now just because they're rooted. They still have their abilities, they can still shoot you in the face, so you can get a lot of out of your ultimate about popping it, shooting, cautiously diving, you know, and just kind of like let the value from the ultimate get the ultimate, right? You got to be really cautious. Yeah, they didn't turn their monitors off just because you rooted it, essentially. Okay, so let's get into some gameplay here, because I think it'll be a little bit easier to demonstrate kind of how we play with this character. So it's all about short range, applying pressure, repositioning, short range pressure, repositioning, short range pressure, playing resource splits, threatening dives, and so on. So my initial rotation here is I know this will get me close to frontline. I know this will get me close to backline. But yeah, this is a good example of a frontline that is not really going to interact with me. So it's going to be which backline can trade the enemy backline, or frontline can trade out the enemy backline. I want to get close to their backline. How do I do it? You got to be thinking, how do I actually close the distance here safely? That's dynamite. That's nade. I'm thinking, frick, I'm low. What can I do? I have to wait. I have to wait until I get healed up. And they're probably close to nade again already. But I have my jump, I have my block, and I have my wall. And that's all I really need. So even if they all put attention on me here, I go in for my dive. Please ignore the mechanics. And now I go, oh, frick, I messed up. I messed up my combo. But you know what? Look at this. Look at where the enemy team was positioned in terms of shooting, and now look at where they're positioned now. So I've basically taken them from this position and said, no, you guys go out, and then I don't need to pursue because now I don't want to overextend. I want to hide back, go back, find my cover, and hold that space. So even if I get slept here, they're not really in a position to punish me. So player on short side, stuff them out, stuff them out. Can't take damage, can't take damage. I dive here because a Sombra dive this close is pretty safe. She's pretty easy to force out. I almost got the kill, and this is one of those moments where it's like, oh, frick, I got a wall and get out now. This song's about to ruin my whole career because I can't block Sleep Dart and nade. So I get the nade off, or get the wall off right before she's, not right before she's, but right as she sleeps. So what that does is that means that my HP doesn't get smoked. That was really scary there. That could have been really bad. Now I know no sleep. She has no translocator. She's gonna die. So here's a question, chat, and this is going to be your most challenging question with Hazard. How can I get closer to the targets that I want to shoot and pressure without taking damage? It's not really a one-step process, right? You got to start thinking. So I'm already thinking, okay, I see where Ash Honor are going. That's too far. I need to get to cover. I'm going to block, and see, even there, that wasn't great for me. I think the idea of how I rotated was fine. But like I probably should have sat here and shot ball a little bit and hit, and then maybe go from here to here. So it's got to be very sequential, right? I think right side, I think high ground is fine, but I got to be a lot more patient about it, right? I'd be really, this is where Hazard dies. This is where like my personal problem, but I think a lot of lower rank and mid rank Hazards will make the same mistake, where this is where you die. Like you can't take unnecessary damage here. And I'm not even blocking because I'm scared of getting slapped. So this is a really bad HP trade for me. So again, just use it. You see an opportunity, just use it. Ult for ult. I know there's nothing that can cleanse the Wrecking Ball. I know that if he's rooted, he can't do any damage. Nano Wrecking Ball needs to hit his abilities to do damage. So I'm more than willing to just kind of sit here and be patient. I go towards my team. A bit of a risk there. I wall off the Wrecking Ball to stop him from shooting me. I'm just waiting. They're popping a lot of ultimates. We just need to wait. That's... whatever. Sombra at that range can't really contest me anyway. And now I got to make a decision. How can I get close? Again, I can't just dive. They're too far away. So how do I do? I get close. So from here, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting. And now I'm committing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I remember this fight, and I remember thinking, this is really risky. This is really risky because I think I'd heard Nade, but I knew that she had Sleep Dart. The only reason I go for this is because I hear EMP and I'm like, bro, I got to make a play here. And because I saw my Tracer. I saw my Tracer said, there is a real world here where we just one-shot her Ana. And to me, this is really what makes Hazard great. It feels very much like Doomfist, where like you could be really disciplined. I shouldn't have wasted wall, but if you set up, if you do your homework, sometimes you can just cheat the system. If your mechanics are good enough, if you set up, there will be times where you could just go YOLO. Not all of Overwatch has to be passive tank trading, right? You can take aggressive space and then you just see an opportunity to go. And so even though this isn't the best play from a strategic standpoint, because me and my Tracer are on the same page, because at least I heard anti-nade. I look at the space that we created. And now look at that Sojourn's position. And now look at that Honest position. And now look at that Valkyrie Mercy's position. It's terrible. There's no follow-up to this dive at all, right? This wasn't my best Hazard game by any means. I don't want to throw in an ego VOD though. I think it's good to point out a lot of the mistakes I missed as MTP. I like this because of the matchup that I ended up playing into, which was very, very CC heavy. So I'm thinking, okay, I hear Torb, I hear Cass, I hear Ana. How am I going to get close to these guys? How am I going to set up an off angle from my team without immediately dying? Where do you guys think I should go where I could live versus CC and yet not be totally passive? You guys tell me. Where do you see? Most of you Spilo heads should know. Where should I set up here? What's a close angle that I can set up without immediately dying? And the corner and point. Yep, exactly. So I don't want to be here because there's not enough cover here, but also this isn't really a good angle. He's already looking this direction. But if I can make them look here, then that's gonna open up so much space to my team, right? And also this is very close to them. I have a wall, I have my wall, I have my block, I have lots of opportunity to live here for a long time. And I have my support all of us, exactly. So this is here, so here we go. I go, okay, I can't dive backline, I'm gonna shoot ball. I hear them trying to walk. I see, I actually wait for him to go. That was probably a mistake. I probably should have gone sooner, to be honest with you guys. So then I actually get poked early, but the play is still the same. Now, can you guys guess, based off of what we've talked about in our ability breakdown and practice range, I'm gonna slash the Cassidy. Yeah, everybody knows that probably. We're gonna try to. But what's gonna follow here? What's gonna happen? You guys know how I'm gonna use my abilities, right? Wall inbound, and then block, right? I'm gonna block to try and minimize how much damage this Cassidy's doing. Here we go. So get the slash, or go for the slash anyway. Don't quite get it. It is tricky to do both with wall. But I force his attention and I block. Now I'm going to shoot Wrecking Wheel, Wrecking Ball, while the wall prevents me from being shot. Do you notice the space that this controls now? Look at that backline versus my backline's position. So much more position, not to mention point pressure. And now, why am I not shooting the Cassidy, chat? Why am I not shooting the Cassidy? This is really important. Why not shoot the Cassidy? Come on, why not? Why am I blocking instead of shooting? Who wins the HP trade here right now? Well, it's 1-for-1. It's tricky, right? But he's pocketed. He's got Mercy Pocket. Right, this is a 2v1. So you guys got to remember, a Mercy Pocket's a 2v1. Live. Mercy Pocket's 2v1. So if this was Cassie by himself, I'd probably shoot him. But with the Mercy Pocket, I'm not going to kill him. So I'm going to block. I'm going to keep his attention. Keep his attention. He stops. I shoot. I shoot. I shoot. I shoot. I shoot. Point pressure. Point pressure. There's the wall. Look at the wall. Look at that. Force block Sleep Dart, right? Even if she doesn't use Sleep Dart here, she's just sitting. They can't. And now I'm like, come on, turn that corner. Get closer to me. I dare you. Even with Mercy's Pocket, I'm going to mess you up. I cannot peek unnecessarily. So here, the only reason I'm peeking is res, which I cancel. And then, oh man, that's just beautiful. That's the greatest of all time. Now, I did risk there. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and be like, oh, this is perfect. Because I could have gotten slept and naded. You know, I figured it was worth the risk considering that we were up one and I had the HP to play with. But there was a risk there. Even here, okay, they're down one. Do you see me? I'm like, okay, we're down one. They're going to push. They're going to push. I'm going to hide. Break turret. Look at the attention I'm getting. Look, if you guys want to see something funny, watch this. I actually think I remember this. Check this out. Look at this Ana. Look at this Torb. They do not want to walk. And see, this is from a tank perspective. This is worth it. This is worth it. So then when they commit, they get impatient and they go, okay, this guy is just going to sit here and hide and wait for us to walk forward. So can you guys guess what I'm about to do now? And here it comes. Here comes, right, it's the Q. So this is the best part about your ultimate. It's not just, like, the fun part about Hazard's kit is it's not just all the abilities that randomly mash together, okay? It's the fact that your abilities allow you to do things. So for example here, I'm going to ult. I want you guys to read my mind here, okay? I honestly don't remember if I executed on this well. This has been a while. It's the fact that what your ultimate can allow you to do. If I ult this Ana, what do you think is going to happen? Right, she's going to panic, nade, sleep, whatever, right? So then I'm going to leverage that panic against her, right? I'm going to ult her and be like, all right, let's see what you do. Panic, 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 panic. There's the ult. And she, look, she never even gets to use the cooldown. In fact, she actually anti-nades aggressively. Look at that. She's sitting up. Never even happened. Never even got it. So you're basically just playing psychological games with them the entire time. I'm holding that angle. This backline never walked out of the choke. This is what I'm talking about, the passive tank theory, where it's the threat of what might happen. It's like a good horror movie. It's what might happen. What actually happens has counterplay. Like you could, you know, the big bad guy comes with the chainsaw. You could just shoot him in the face, or you could beat him over the head with the stick, or you can tase him or something. But it's like what might happen, and it's that overreaction and that fear. Right? Just, I might dive you, but I'm gonna sit here and make you think about it. It's the implication, right? And it's what, it's indirect threat that leads to direct and measurable value for your team. We can maybe look at a little bit of Dorado. Let's see if there's a different situation. Maybe a different tank matchup might be useful to look at. We'll look at a little bit more. Okay, now, one of the things that I hear a lot of people saying on like Reddit and Twitter, which is just straight up misinformation, and this is not really a balanced discussion, but this is more so that a bunch of Hazard players don't do stupid things. Guys, you can't win frontline trades versus most tanks in most situations. I don't beat Rein in a frontline trade unless the Rein is already low or is missing CDs. I don't beat Zarya unless she's missing CDs or is already low. I don't beat Roadhog. I don't beat Orisa. I don't beat Ramatra. You don't beat these tanks in frontline trades unless they're down in HP. If you try to do that, you will lose your games. Your advantage is your ability to reposition and resource split. And if you don't use that advantage, you're going to lose. It doesn't mean that you don't ever play with Rein ever. I definitely do, but I have to do so selectively and use the right timing and the right windows and use my mobility. For example, right now you might go, well then how am I? See, this is the problem with a lot of Hazard players. You go, how am I supposed to dive backline? They're so far away. You don't. You got to think 2 steps ahead of it. Where is backline? So where should my first step to getting closer to getting on an angle be right now? There's a couple of choices. Where could I go? Not right now, or where should I go right now so that in 10 seconds I could be on them? Let's see. Yes, there's no immediate dopamine now. Oh, so the Rein just walks away. See, even here, I'm not necessarily forcing the dive. I just be patient. I know we're moving cart. Now I don't have my wall, but I could be a little bit more liberal. This is really important. I can be more liberal with my wall because they don't have CC. So I could just use my wall just to force a resource split. Now, how am I going to dive here, chat? How am I going to dive? What if this Rein pushes me? 2 for 1, so I just block. She overextends, punish her. I should have gotten that kill. That's a mechanic diff right there. I should have killed her. Ryan's looking at me. I'm thinking about wall climbing away. Yep, look at this. Look at that. Up and over the Rein. And not just to kill the Mercy here, but even if the Mercy wasn't here, I can then use this to hide and to avoid the Rein. So I'm going to make that Reinhardt turn around and chase me. And then look at that, block the Rein off. And he pins right into the wall, right? So that's how you beat a Rein. You dance around him, you harass and compress his backline, and then you make him screw up. And then now I'll kill him, I don't care. He's low now, so I'll just beat on him. Now, can you guys guess what's about to happen? Here we have a push. We have no Suzu, right? It's coming. Right? Now, I don't even know if I'm going to get a kill with this, but I don't care. I'm going to hold them in that choke. I'm going to counter their ult with my ult, and then maybe get a headshot off of that, right? Bring it down. And sometimes you'll even notice, like, not as much in this fight, but I'll even swing to an angle because oftentimes you'll catch them, like, kind of clumped, right? They'll try to, like, oh no, they're ulting, let's spread out, and they'll actually just walk right into the ultimate. And that's it. Bam. So you can kind of see the angle adjustment that you make. So watch this. Watch the sightline. And do you see how I flick it? Do you guys know Junker Queen ult, how you can press Q and make a last second adjustment of where you're going with the Junker Queen ultimate? You could do the same thing with Hazard's ult. So that slight flick to the right is the only reason I caught Sojourn here. It's actually, I would have missed the Juno as well. So it's really important you can press Q and then see where they're strafing and make a last second adjustment. So I to be honest with you, I should not have got Sojourn. Sojourn kind of got scammed, but it doesn't matter. Juno's dead. Juno's dead. And look at this resource split as well. Like, look at this forest positioning. So this Juno's dead. I go for the Juno. I can commit on Juno. There's no reason not to. I have the HP for it. And then you notice, again, why am I blocking? HP management. She's pocketed. I'm not going to kill her. She's in Juno ult. So the worst thing I could possibly do right now is take an unbelievable amount of damage. So I keep my HP. Look at my HP. Look at my HP. Look at my HP. I can still play the game. They popped a lot of ults. GG's. Look at the wall. Look at the wall. I don't need it for CDs. I don't need it for CC. I'm taking damage. I don't want to take damage because my healers have to heal me. I don't want to be healed. Block. Shoot. Shoot for free. Shoot for free. Shoot for free. Shoot, 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 shoot. Move forward. Fill the gap. Jump slash. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Block, 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 block. And then we use ult. I keep going. Yeah, I mean, really, really dynamic. There's like a lot of things that you could do with it, but the key thing is to take the most powerful short-range off angle or high ground that you could possibly take. Think not just one step ahead, but 2 steps ahead with how can I get close to enemies without using too many cooldowns, without taking too much damage. And then when you are playing versus a diver or you're playing versus something with CC or even just something with a lot of damage, being very thoughtful about where do I place my wall to prevent myself from taking damage, to prevent myself from getting slapped, to prevent myself from getting CC'd. And if the answer is none of those things are irrelevant or are relevant, then just go aggressive with it. Very dynamic Pharaoh, very complicated ceiling, definitely a bit overtuned, at least at the time of the recording of this, but a lot of fun to play, a lot of choices. And actually, the more time that you spend with him, the less bloat you feel with the kit. A lot of it just flows very naturally. Fits like an old glove, which feels great.